Good afternoon or good morning to everybody. We've got people dialing in from all over the globe today. Thank you very much for joining us in our celebration of British Beauty Week. I know quite a few people that registered for this webinar, but for those of you I haven't had the pleasure to meet yet, my name is Amy Nelson-Bennett. I'm the CEO of Positive Luxury, and our topic today is near and dear to me. Prior to joining Positive Luxury 4 years ago, I worked in the beauty and fragrance industry for a couple of decades. I was the CEO of Clive Christian Perfume, and prior to that, of Molton Brown Cosmetics. Um, Now I've taken a right turn and taken that in a slightly different angle. For those of you who aren't familiar with Positive Luxury, we are a sustainability consultancy that focuses exclusively on the global luxury industry. We work with about 200 different businesses and have about 100 partners that support us in helping the global luxury industry fast track its sustainability work, prepare for legislation, communicate and build trust with their consumers and other stakeholders, and future-proof their organizations. Today, we're going to talk about packaging, specifically in the luxury end of the beauty and fragrance sector. And we want to focus on, I guess, the tangible solutions to address impact, but also to help redefine the luxury experience away from perhaps layers of excess and firmly in the direction of innovation, and one that empowers consumers and invites them to be part of the solution. I'm very excited today because I'm joined by three fantastic organizations that are working hard as part of the solution. So just a quick introduction. Thank you very much to joining me sorry, we've got traffic outside, so we're going to do noise control on our end. First of all, thank you to the team from Miller Harris, a luxury British fragrance brand that I've been a fan of for years. Their head office is here near us in London. This is a business committed to using natural materials while pushing its creative boundaries. Miller Harris is a member of the Positive Luxury community, has been so for years, and I'm proud to say re-earned their Butterfly Mark certification in April of this year. We're also joined by Zenpack. Its two founders. Zenpack is based in the US and China and Taiwan. They work with a wide range of global clients on end-to-end packaging solutions, from design to logistics to production. They're another member the Positive Luxury community. And again, I'm proud to say that Zenpack achieved Butterfly Mark certification for the first time in February of this year. And then finally, a business I've admired for many years, Verescence. This is a global packaging supplier specializing in the design and production of premium glass packaging. They focus on sustainable, innovative solutions, particularly for luxury beauty, fragrance, and cosmetic brands. Our discussion today will last about 45 minutes, and I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on the clock and that we leave 10 minutes at the end for question and answers. Feel free to place questions into the chat. I've got one of my lovely colleagues here monitoring that, or comments or your opinions. This is all about discussion, and we'll make sure that we cover those at the end or give people a chance to ask. Also, just so people know, we will share a recording of the session next week with everybody that joined and participated today. What I'd like to do is give each of our panelists a chance to introduce themselves to everybody who took the time to dial in. So Lauren, why don't we start with you?
Jamie, yes. Hi, everyone. I am the Head of Product Development at Miller Harris. I've been here just under 3 years, and my role is primarily focused on new product concepts and how the launch calendar looks for us over the next few years. I also do a little bit of regulation, sustainability, of course, and product registration for global markets. So I wear a few different hats in my role.
Great, thanks, Lauren. Robin and Leo, over to you.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Robin Tam. I'm one of the co-founders and managing partner at Zenpack. My job is about customer advocacy. So I help clients to be successful at what they do. And we've been around since 2015. So we are almost hitting the 10-year mark. Thank you. Passing on to you, Leo.
Leo Chao here. I'm one of the co-founder and creative director at Zenpack. My role in the company is in charge of the design programs and really help our clients to move towards to a goals they have on both business and sustainability. Thank you.
Fabulous. And last but not least, Samuel.
Hello, I'm Samuel Joachim. I'm the head of innovation and new product development. I've worked in the packaging industry for 30 years now in France, in the US, and in Germany. And I joined the Verescence group in 2013. Verescence is the world leader of glass packaging manufacturing for cosmetic and perfumery in the world, manufacturing bottles such as, you might know, Dior J'adore, Dior Sauvage, Bulgari, etc., etc.
Thank you to all four of you for being here today. It's a really interesting mix of individuals, but all four of you have very, very fabulous sounding jobs. So we're here today to talk about packaging, and the big question is why packaging? I think everybody probably knows that the beauty and fragrance sector in particular uses not just a large volume, but also a large array of materials for packaging. And I know from personal experience that it's a significant portion of our company's expenses and costs, whether that's designing it, producing it, and let's not forget shipping it all over the world. At the same time, the beauty and fragrance industry is facing a growing amount of pressure from various stakeholders to start seriously addressing the environmental impact of packaging, whether it's material extraction, whether it's movement of components and finished goods, whether it's the waste from the volume of packaging that you can see from the statistics here that ends up in landfill. Packaging is really starting to take a visible toll. In a big study published by Bain & Co., about 19,000 consumers were surveyed, trying to get under the skin of what do consumers really, really want when it comes to sustainability. Apart from the obvious headlines of major growing concerns of how this is impacting their lives on a day-to-day basis, packaging and recyclability came up as the two key concerns for all consumers across the markets globally. And that's why packaging sits in the top right-hand corner of this materiality matrix. It's the most highly material topic for luxury beauty and fragrance brands. And it's also why, because of its link to other topics that also sit in that top right-hand quadrant, like waste, procurement, climate, biodiversity, circularity, why we're seeing such an increase in the volume of packaging-led sustainability regulation. Hopefully everybody on the call is aware and preparing for new pieces of legislation like the UK plastic packaging tax. This impacts manufacturers, importers within the beauty and fragrance industry, anybody dealing with 10 or more tons of material that consists of 30% or less recycled plastic. A large one that's really hitting and is really driving change that we're seeing is the EU packaging and packaging waste regulation. We just call it PPWR because we like to speak in anagrams. This piece of legislation is aimed at reducing packaging waste, promoting reuse, and ensuring that all packaging is recyclable or compostable by 2030. And another kind of legislation we're seeing a rise of, we're seeing it hit in lots of different countries, including Canada, France, Germany, other major markets, is the Extended Producer Responsibility Initiatives. You'll see that referred to as EPR. This requires companies to take responsibility for the end-of-life management of their packaging. So it's a really, really important topic. And legislation, we believe, is going to create a level playing field over time. So what I'd love to dive into is how legislation and businesses are dealing with not just the risk that legislation presents, but also the opportunities that it creates. So if we move into our first question, and I'm really going to start with you, Samuel, because we talked a lot about this in our pre-call. In terms of the regulatory landscape, how do evolving environmental standards and the growth in legislation impact your business's approach to packaging production?
Thank you. Well, I'm the lucky one because I work in glass, and glass is a fantastic material. Glass is historic. We find traces of glass more than 2,000 years before Christ. Glass is natural and inert. It really protects the formula. It's very compatible with bulks. And glass is infinitely recyclable without losing any of its properties. So you can throw, if you throw a glass bottle in the in the glass trash container around the corner, it will become another glass packaging. And this can continue forever and ever without losing any of its properties. So concretely, regarding the PPWR that you mentioned, the requirement is to have recyclability for all materials, all packaging materials at scale. And I said we're pretty lucky with glass because Europe, in particular, has already a quite effective recycling industry in place. The target of the PPWR is to reach 70% by 2030. And today, as we speak, the recycling rate in Europe is 80.2%. So already above the target. And that's a real advantage of this material because, as I mentioned, if you throw a bottle around the corner, it's very available for the consumers, and it makes sure that a glass bottle becomes another glass packaging. Verescence, on top of this, offers different PCR options. So actually the PCR, post-consumer recycled glass that comes from the recycling companies, that we see all these glass from the different municipalities. They actually sort what's in these trash containers, and they send back PCR, post-consumer recycled glass, to the glassworks. We get PCR, flint PCR from these companies. In the food and beverage industry, they recycle PCR up to 70 to 90% of their composition. We, in the cosmetic industry, recycle today at Verescence, we offer 20%, PCR 20% with 20% recycled glass, and PCR 40%. And 20% already reduces the CO2 emissions of our productions by 5%. This is very important because more PCR means less raw materials, but also less energy to melt the glass. So this is a good option for customers, knowing that PCR 40 and 20 do not affect at all the property of the glass. It's still as protective for the bulks or the fragrances. It's still soda lime glass, so it's the same composition. It's still the same adhesion testing, I would say, performance for the decoration. The only slight difference is that for PCR 40, there's a slight change in color because PCR actually contains a pretty high content of iron, which because of the glass and beverage industry that recycles a lot. And therefore, the PCR 40 is a slightly greenish, slightly greener than the PCR 20 and the extra flint glass. And our target at Verescence is to have PCR 20 as a standard in all our furnaces in France, Spain, the US, and in Korea.
Right.
The second topic you were, and did I interrupt you? No.
No.
No, sorry. So the second topic of the PPWR that affects the glass as a material is the design for minimization. And there will be some guidelines that will be established in 2027, 2028. And Verescence already worked on the minimization of glass containers. We reduce, as you can see on this picture, we reduce with Guerlain, of course, together with Guerlain, the glass weight of the Abeille Royale 50 ml jar went down from 163 to 80 grams today. So reducing the gram weight by half. Of course, there's a change in shape, obviously, but it was, I think, a good initiative, a great initiative from Guerlain. And today these initiatives grow, and we've been working on these initiatives with our customers for years now, and we accompany our customers through this path of glass reduction. Of course, sorry, you have a question?
Nope.
No, sorry. And the PPWR will, of course, fuel these initiatives at our customers.
Great. Some great examples there. Lauren, I think you had a example as well when we were talking this week about a sort of piece of legislation in one market that actually ended up driving some creativity that had a bigger benefit.
Yeah, it was so we trade in South Korea, and they have very strict regulation around gift set packaging. So it was very challenging for us because you can't have more than 25% of wasted space, which doesn't leave a great deal to work with. But it was a really good exercise actually, because it led us to rethink our whole gift packaging and the whole kind of construction, the materials, really kind of dig into the detail and produce something that, and I think I mentioned to you before, actually the perception now, even though it's smaller, is that it is more luxury than what we've previously produced, because we've really kind of honed in on different materials, tactile finishes, kind of that exploration around the pack and emotive storytelling. And connection with the customer. So it was a really good project. So although it started with regulation, it's, you know, it's just been worthwhile all round, and of course reduces waste, which is ultimately what we're looking to do.
Wonderful. It's a great example. Another question I'd like to, we hear this a lot from clients, or it's a challenge that a lot of people we work with. I want to know how you ensure that your supply chain, I guess, including raw material suppliers, so maybe further out than your sort of direct tier one, adhere to the sustainable and ethical standards that you set as a business. And again, Lauren, do you want to give us an answer on that? And then I'm going to ask Leo and Robin to answer to this as well, given the complexity of their business.
Of course. Yeah, no, thank you. So completely. Supply chain transparency is certainly complex and challenging, but it's so fundamental. And I think that there's been kind of a tendency to focus on kind of the credentials of the finished asset, the finished package, but there's so much more behind that, and that's what we really like to dig into. And ultimately what we're looking for is to work with suppliers who are like-minded, who share our passion, and a genuine passion for sustainability. And we have a select number of suppliers that we work with, and some of us have been with us since the beginning of Miller Harris. In terms of how we approach, it's kind of multi-layered. I would say that first thing for us would be kind of an alignment of values, kind of clear goals and expectations, and how those are going to be achieved. And I think we are really focused on how both parties can work together. It's certainly a collaboration for us. It's not one-sided. It's really important that it goes both ways. And I think there's a real opportunity there to kind of map together areas in the production process that are causing many issues. For things for us, it would be certainly energy management, raw material wastage, things like carton boards, components, you know, what are we doing with those? There's a real opportunity there. And I think also to kind of complement that, there's also a kind of thorough due diligence process for us, which would include things more so like codes of conduct in place, modern slavery statements. We're very keen to kind of explore suppliers' third-party certifications as well. So examples across our supplier bases, they would be using things like ISO 14001, environmental management, energy standards, health and safety. And also, I think a lot of our supplier base, about 40%, is actually using the EcoVadis sustainability rating platform. And I know Verescence on the call with us today, they have a platinum rating, which makes them in the top 1% of companies evaluated, which is fantastic. So congratulations on that. So those are all the things that we're really looking for, because I think it sort of, for us, it builds that trust, it builds that authenticity, and that they're really, passionate, they're doing the things that they say they're doing. But there's also suppliers that we have that are doing a lot with kind of closed loop recycling and zero to landfill solutions. And again, that's something that we're very, very passionate about. And I would say that for Miller Harris, we do prefer to source locally where we can. So a large proportion of our packaging suppliers are based in either the UK and France. And alongside, of course, the carbon footprint consideration, for us, it's also a case of being able to visit the sites more easily. For us to do an internal audit, that's a real preference for us. And the reason for that is because we feel that it's important to kind of immerse ourselves in the culture. I don't think you can get a full feel for it unless you're there. We want to see those processes. We want to see quality. Most importantly as well, it's about the work environment for the staff there. Is it positive? Is it fostering a culture of inclusivity, innovation? There's kind of all these touch points that we have. And I mean, our supplier base does vary greatly. I mean, ultimately, we have some suppliers which are huge and have their own CSR departments. They're reporting, annually, full reports, and that's kind of trigger points for us throughout the year to kind of check in with them and see what they're working on. Challenges, obviously, smaller suppliers or newer suppliers, they're earlier in their journey. They might be working towards a certification for the first time. So they might need a little bit more support or encouragement from us, as to why it's so important to achieve it. But yeah, it's just a real kind of full, multifaceted approach to how we monitor. And it's just really important that we have that visibility to source for us, but more importantly for our customers as well. The consumer now is really wants to know the background of the product, and that's what's so important for us.
Good, very, very thorough, and big bonus points, Lauren. Very proud of you guys as a business.
Thank you.
Leo and Robin, you guys provide such a breadth of different services to the people you work with. How do you deal with what is then a very, very complex value chain that sits beyond your organization, enabling you to provide that?
Maybe I'll chime in first and Leo can support me from there. So the nature of our business is really helping customer from the very standpoint on design first. And then we help them to execute that, turn that into a very real idea, the idea turning into a real thing. And paper factory is what we own. But while we are, the design team is working on material that beyond paper. There are so many of them. We deal with plastic, glass, fabric to as part of the secondary packaging or primary packaging. So we have to rely on some of our partners in supply chain beyond our own factory. And the way how we are able to manage these suppliers and raw material suppliers for our client is really by the global guideline, the global standards that we have been learning from this industry. And I think we all know these type of we started the conversation with the regulatory, with the different guidelines, and these goes into so many different materials, and this is why we are part of Positive Luxury as how ourselves to earn that butterfly mark, and how is ours what I call our supply chain team is able to making sure that the subcontractor that we use can adhere to the same type of procedure that we are doing internally. And we educate ourselves on the everyday basis because this type of thing changes all the time. So like everyone knows, it's a very complex process, but we rely on third party, like Positive Luxury, to support us to make sure this raw material is up to the standards for the country that we are shipping into. So that's just a quick add-on point I wanted to add, and Leo
Yeah.
can probably add more to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really just want to echo what Lauren said about, because we work with so many different type of suppliers, old and new. And I think one of the things that we took on as our responsibility is actually to really partnership with our suppliers and help them as well. A lot of these new suppliers coming in, sometimes with a very new, interesting material that, say a new material that has never really been commoditized before or widely used yet, say like some kind of seaweed paste basting. Like there's really no guidelines around that material specifically. So we're almost, when we're trying to push for the new things, we're almost there to guide them through on, well, these are general things that you could do. And specifically for this special material, you probably need to add to this. So a lot of things we learn from you guys, really, Amy, and then we're trying to translate that to our partners and really get them to understand that maybe they should be certifying, with different parties as well, that really rely on, like Robin said as well, third-party certifications. And really, tools today, like life cycle analysis tools, Compass, these type of tools really, I think, help us on really managing the vast variety of materials. Yeah, I'll just add to that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I want to while you're sort of up, Leo, I want to move the conversation, I guess, more to the design and creative side of the work of packaging. And I'm interested, given your role, of how you approach the design process right from the start, which is where we really need to be thinking about these things to ensure that functionally the package does everything you need it to do, and that aesthetically it does everything that you need it to do when you're working with luxury brands. And how do you do that and meet those needs while minimizing the environmental impact?
Yeah, well, it's a tough one here. I'll start, and Robin, maybe you can chime in a little bit. So in terms of our work, we obviously work with a lot of different, industries, from food to electronics to like everyday, tools. Funny enough, our framework around sustainability packaging starts something a little differently. So the first thing we look at is actually, really rethink about the existence of packaging. So meaning that a lot of times we will tell our client, like, you don't really need it. Like you possibly you can completely remove some parts of your packaging, or actually completely remove a whole, category, really. So the thinking behind that is that a lot of times we're talking about the strategy of, doing things the easiest and probably most profound and impactful way. Sometimes are just completely removing something. Now, this is really attached to their business strategy. So it's definitely a partnership and sort of a business partnership on that level, like rethink about their entire system. So, we've done a few interesting work locally here in California, removing basically entire line of styrofoam into a very simple paper structure, while, providing enough protection. So I think that's the first point. I really want to mention that because I don't think a lot of people talking about that part. Like you really need to look at if you really need it. And obviously the whole tools about, I call it the R's, we talk about the reduce, reuse, recycle parts. Every year there's new R's coming around and we adapt to it. I think recently recycling obviously have been, especially on plastic, have been challenged with a lot of, facts. So on our part, we're trying to utilizing these tools. The old traditional tools, they're still very useful today. Looking at how do we reduce, how do we actually make things maybe more reusable, and ultimately, choose the material that can be recycled, like glass. And all that sort of material search, we also look into if there's new sort of upcoming material. Years ago, molded pulp, molded fiber was, just starting out. Today, it's like a common thing. And the ability for us, I think, to push the boundary from, the first version is like the eight carton thing, right? Now today it's used on iPhones. How do we push that material sort of from more of a rustic, industrial material into something more refined? That requires both us proposing a different point of view and also the client sort of start to buy in about this new material that, hey, this could be luxury too. And a lot of it's really on us, the designer, to show the clients that this is how it looks like. The paper, or this traditional material doesn't need to feel sort of standard. It can be super luxury if we treat it in a certain way. So I think that's, again, another thing that we're passionate about, is really push the boundary of the new material and introduce almost a new way of looking at them. I think the bottom line is that, for luxury and beauty industries, oftentimes the brands are on the forefront of leading almost like what's next thing and what's the new beauty almost. So I think we're in a very good position to almost challenge that, is that traditionally, yes, luxury look a certain way, but if you want to be the brand want to be on the forefront of that, you take the challenge. You start leading what is actually more beautiful. I think that could be almost a manifesto for all designers, that we can take on that responsibility. Yeah. So
Here,
that's
Leo.
my part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it very, very much. And Samuel, talk to us about, you guys have been excelling in this space for ages. Talk to us about your approach at Verescence and what's earned you that platinum ranking at EcoVadis.
Yeah. Just like Leo, we work with luxury brands, and we decided to put in place an actual process, because we have a lot of new products coming in. We work together with luxury brands. Of course, they are the ones who decide, but we have the duty to help them and make sure that the products that they put on the market does not impact less and less the environment. And our eco-design strategy is supported by 4 pillars that you can see here on this picture. The first pillar is the reducing the gram weight of glass packaging is the most effective lever to reduce the impact on the environment. For instance, the gem bottle that you see on this picture, it's 100 ml, 100 grams. It's very light. And we've put to avoid any greenwashing, we've put a scale in place named the Eco Score, and the Eco Score will tell you how light your packaging is. And we put actually all the range of our customers on this scale, so that they can decide what they want where they want the reduction, the glass reduction to occur. So this is the very first pillar. It's the most effective, and as we mentioned earlier, it's part of the requirements of the PPWR. The second one is the reuse. Of course, if you reuse the same glass packaging, you don't impact the environment, because you just reuse the same packaging. So for fragrances, concretely, it's today we have more than 90% of the glass. This is for instance, an Armani Code bottle. There's a screw neck now. When I started my career, there were almost no screw necks. Today, all the glass bottles have a screw neck almost, so that the consumer can remove the pump to refill, and also remove the pump to dispose of both plastic and glass. And this is for the fragrance. And for the skincare, there's more and more glass jars with a cup. This is, for instance, our solution that we developed together with Albia. So there's just a normal glass jar, and you just remove the cup, and you keep the glass jar home, and you buy another cup. So it's of course it's very effective, and it's important the consumer use the reusability of the containers they buy. Third one is recycle. We spoke about it. We offer PCR options, 20 and 40. with a very slight impact on the aesthetics. And today, most of our big customers buy PCR 20. And the last one is the replace, is to how can we replace, for instance, plastics? In the fragrance industry, you can have glass caps. You see, for instance, on this Allegra, Bulgari Allegra bottle, the cap is in glass, and actually Bulgari claims that this bottle is 97% glass. For instance, in the makeup industry, as you can see, there's a lip gloss. There are mascaras now in glass, so that we can have glass to replace plastic in some areas. So this is our fourth pillar. And every time we have a new product, a new request from our customers coming in, we try to apply this process to see what we can do and make sure that we really cover all the possibilities of reducing the impact on the environment. Because we know that if you discuss these points early in developments, you have more room for maneuver to orient the creatives, and for them to take the best decisions for the planet.
For sure. Yep. You do that at procurement stage, and you're a bit late to the
that's too late.
A bit late to the game, but
exactly.
Yeah. So I'm interested, you were talking about refills and things, which sort of leads me on to the next topic of our consumers, of the beauty and fragrance products, and the sort of what's commonly called the sort of, I guess, the intention gap. I'm interested in the role that packaging design plays in communicating sustainability to the consumer, where historically packaging has been used to mainly convey luxury positioning and the experience that's traditionally been associated with that. So how do you balance those two up and try to turn that to your advantage? And Lauren, it'd be great to hear your experience as a brand doing beautiful finished goods, how you handle that.
No, definitely. And it's great to see, obviously, Samuel and Robin talking about the 3 Rs, because we certainly incorporate that within all our packaging design. There are some areas that need work, but it's something that we always try and incorporate. And the sustainability messaging plays a really important role. And how we kind of approach it is we kind of incorporate that messaging within the wider kind of brand ID and alongside the emotive copy and the storytelling. And it kind of conveys that luxury experience, but a conscious luxury experience that our customers would expect. And I think that it's something that we've been building on, certainly over the last few years. And it's at all kind of touch points within the customer journey as well. So we talk a lot about retail packaging, but as we've discussed, it's, e-commerce packaging, it's all tertiary packaging, it's carrier bags in the stores. It's kind of, we're always sort of trying to touch those points. And I think it's as well about kind of challenging the perception. It is changing, but still challenging that perception of what luxury is, and sustainable and luxury can coexist. And I think that what it really comes down to is well-placed design, well-considered design. And Leo touched on it a bit earlier, but I think as well for us, we're really focused. Once you sort of strip away those excess layers, strip away the noise, you really focus in on the package, and it allows you to kind of open up a palette of materials. So for us, what we really look at is textures and finishes. There's so many papers available now that there's ones that are made from recycled coffee cups, there's ones that incorporate that are plantable. There's so many options that you can consider, and I think for us that looking at those details kind of helps to elevate it if you use them in conjunction with some other finishes. So for example, with us, we would use maybe an uncoated stock, but then we would add embossing or very light kind of foil detailing to not affect the recyclability. And it's this kind of real exploration around the pack. And we do include, particularly with this gift range that's on screen now, we're really trying to incorporate more kind of on-pack messaging as well. That's really important. Over the last few years, we've been adding things like the FFC logo. You know, why not add it? It's something like 70%, 77% of consumers in the UK recognise it instantly, 56% of consumers worldwide. So add it, it helps them make a more informed choice. Also for us, the kind of the recyclability or recycled content within the product is really important. That's something that we've started to include as well. So for example, if our carrier bags or gift boxes, if they're 40%, they're made of 40% post-consumer waste, we would add that on. We would add clearer definitions of recyclability to again help the consumer, because that education piece is really important. And I think it's just kind of we're still kind of working through, but again, it's just how we communicate better with consumers, and we would even include things now like if we're using vegetable-based inks, loads of companies are, it's kind of standard, but if a customer wants to know, the information's there. It's an easy touch point. Something that we do as well is we're always looking at kind of consolidation, kind of not using too many component types, not using too much packaging. And the bath and body range that we have on the screen now, this is something that we've reworked this year, because we re-looked at the range and we determined that we had essentially SKUs doing the same thing, and we were running different component types. We had lotion pumps on, hand lotion, hand wash. We had disc top caps on bath and shower gels. So we really kind of looked at the range, because essentially when you're doing that, it's extra setup, is extra labels, all those things. So we kind of looked at it and said, no, this can work better. And what we've done is kind of consolidate the range into multifunctional products. So they're now all hand wash, hand lotion, and also improve the functionality. I think that's a really important point, is it always has to be functional in whatever we're considering. So where we've replaced this range now and all the products have pumps, it's actually better. We had a lot of feedback from consumers that it wasn't working with a different cap closure. So again, it's kind of just focusing on those points. And our bottle now, we were at 50% PCR for our plastic bottles, we're now at 100%. And kind of balancing that luxury feel. For us, we've got a tint on our bottle. Ours is a slight black tint, and we couple that with a label that has, again, a tactile feel, and a lot of well-placed design around the pack. So yeah, I think it's a multiple of things kind of working together.
Okay. I'm conscious of time, and I want to make sure that I give some time for our audience. So I'm going to go to our last question before I open us up for Q&A. And I want to look forward. I want to look at the future, and I want to hear each of your opinions. I'm interested in what each of you think are the most sort of exciting developments that are in, there's sort of interesting early stages now that are going to shape the future of sustainable packaging and could be really interesting for the people from the luxury beauty sector that are on this call. Leo and Robin, do you want to start us off? I know you had some tangible examples of this you were excited about.
Right. Earlier Leo touched on paper pulp material, and some of the bio-base. On this page, what you see on the left, it's actually a plastic fill container, but the polymer is based from the soil. So over time, it has a shelf life, it biodegrades. So it's a very interesting material. And on the bottom there on the photo, it's actually a way how to utilize aluminum. Earlier, we talked about glass. Aluminum is a great material where 100% of it can be recycled and reused. And what the beauty brand has been doing is utilizing aluminum material and have a reusable vessel on top of that. And that's a trend I've been seeing a lot of brand owners are working towards too. to really accommodate their branding asset. Lauren talked about a lot about, earlier how the sustainability and luxury marry to each other. That it's easy to ask the question, to execute is very, very hard. The branding asset, the brand value, and connect with the design, and then you have to execute on the mass production side. So I give them a lot of credit on what they are doing, because we know it's a very difficult task to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then paper pulp is another material where earlier Leo talked about eggshell cottons. And then that is now being used in a lot of luxury electronic packaging. Now, the biggest thing I see is, how do we turn that into bottles? That can adhere to, and contain different type of beauty material. So that's the next thing I'll be seeing in the market, and then we might be seeing that in the market pretty soon here.
Okay. Leo, anything to add from your angle?
So I think the one thing is interesting. It's not sexy, but I'm looking forward to more policies to be implemented. I think, like Lauren said, sometimes these similarly risky and harsh policies coming down, a lot of business reacting to it maybe late, but I think what I see is really on the other side, where I think there's so many opportunities when you embrace that. And oftentimes I see interesting results actually just derived from that. So we know they're coming, and we're actually pretty excited about it. So yeah.
Good to hear. And Samuel, you guys have been sort of at the forefront of really harnessing change and being early provision of solutions. What's exciting you, and what innovations are you, really looking forward to seeing how they land in the marketplace and help reduce impact?
Well, I fully agree with Lauren, and we observe the same trends, and we think actually that the definition of luxury is changing with time. It's luxury product is no longer an abundance of product with a license to waste or a permit to waste. It's really a quality product, the elevation of the quality of the product, a product that really lasts, that you can keep home for a long time, and that is sustainable. And we think it's really the what is changing in the definition of luxury. And of course, we are here to follow this, and we observe the same trends with minimization of quantity of the packaging, and with compensation, sometimes with decoration, with a higher quality level, higher expectation from our customers for the sustainability of the product.
Great. Lauren, anything you're excited that's in sort of early stages that you guys can't wait to harness?
Well, the only thing that I would say is that we're still, and I think I mentioned yesterday, but we're still super focused and excited about refillable options for us at Miller Harris. It's part of our targets that we're working to. Unfortunately for us, our perfume bottles still have a crimp neck on, and it's it's at the moment it's the biggest barrier for us for refill. And it's really important that we address that. It's something that's in motion at the moment, but it's a consideration of how that works. Is it, is the customer refilling it? Are we having refill stations in stores? That's easy to manage for us here, but then how does that expand kind of with global partners? And there's a lot to consider, but it's definitely something that we're still very excited about, I have to say.
Well, it is great to hear for such optimistic attitudes towards all the different changes in the market and the way you're seeing them as business opportunities. It's a fantastic message to get out into the marketplace. I want to open up. I want to make sure we've got some time for questions. The lovely Amanda has been monitoring questions for me. We had a few.
Yeah,
we have. Okay, we have from Hannah. Thank you for the question. Hannah struggles to find glass packaging for stick or solid product. And she wants to know why that is, and are there any solutions that any of you can recommend? She says she struggles to find a sustainable solution where there's a mechanism required, i.e. like a twist up stick. Anyone have any great ideas for that?
Well, it's very close to a lipstick, I would say, I guess, in term of of solution, mechanical solution to answer this need. And of course, there are different materials to do that. Today, there are more and more glass lipsticks, but the mechanism, of course, inside should be metallic. But that definitely, I think it's definitely something possible. And I think in Asia, there are more and more of these solutions for fragrance for perfumes.
Solid fragrance. Okay.
Mm.
Great. Let's see. Tim, does anyone on the panel think there'll be a more sustainable fragrance pump available soon? For fragrance, glass bottles and paper secondary packaging are great, but the pump remains the difficult element to make more sustainable. Anybody?
I've seen aluminum parts now with pumps. That's the only thing I can see that's not plastic. I have for the past two years. It is basing, I can't remember their name, but I can provide that, but it's basing British. So I can, but that's about the only thing. And I know it's all a challenge for us because glass bottles, there's still a lot of parts that remain plastic. And then, you know, like we mentioned before, like the way now is to like try to separate them, right? But yes, I only seen one that are not plastic. Yeah.
There was a provider at London Packaging Week who recently last month at the Excel Center who was promoting the first fully recyclable pump for fragrance. One of our brands was there and she was so excited because she's been looking for this solution for years. I think it was like early days. I'm not sure it was a fully scaled solution, but if there's people out promoting it, it means they're getting close. So let's keep looking because once somebody's at that stage, it means they've got the backing to take it. Let's see a few other questions that have. Oh, Lauren, sorry. Hi. Lauren, did you have a solution?
Hi. Oh no, I actually was just going to say that one of the questions that we were talking about was what would make my life easier or kind of improve things for us, and that was actually one of mine. So
pump,
it's for sure. So a better pump for sure. And I think that's I was just going to say that's great news if there's somebody that's already innovating in that area.
Yeah, we'll try to remember. I've got that down somewhere who that is and circulate it to everybody who registered for that. And Leo, if you can remember who you saw, that would be fantastic as well. Because I agree with Lauren. That was always a challenge in fragrance world.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Question for Samuel: does PCR glass affect the glass quality or the perceived value of the packaging? You know, in your sort of experience. I think you've kind of spoken to that, but give us a few examples. You've got some great businesses.
Again, it doesn't affect at all the property of glass because it's still the same composition, still soda lime glass, so it's the same composition. So you have the same compatibility properties with the bulks. You have the same adhesion with the decoration. The only slight thing that changes might be the aesthetics. If you go up to 40%, there's a slight greenish color, which is actually even less than on beverage bottles. But for in our business, in the luxury, in packaging for the luxury business in glass, the expectation is very high. So it's a bit greenish. So still you have for instance, Bulgari Man, they have a bottle with PCR 40. You have Rochas, you have a lot of customers that take PCR 40. So no, there's absolutely no change. If you switch from extra thin glass to PCR 20 or to PCR 40, you don't need to re-homologate your decoration to re-homologate the products. It could be just as fast as that. So it's really easy.
Okay, great.
And it's great for the environment.
This is for sure. Let's see. We've had a question about legislation that came in early on, but then Robin and Leo spoke to that about the complexity of their business and how they're dealing with that. We've had a question, which is if there's one solution, this feels like maybe one for you, Lauren, and you may have answered it, but I think every business has one. If there's one thing that could change, that would be a game changer for you. It may not be in your business. It may be in the external world of the marketplace. It may be out in your value change. If you could flick a switch and change one thing, what would it be that would really help you, and your business, take your work to, I guess, the next level?
Yeah, I think, like I just mentioned, I think that the issue with components and pumps specifically being made of mixed materials, I think that would be such a game changer for us. I think we do, and we try not to use them, but where there's composite materials and they're really difficult to recycle, it is just so problematic. So I think for us, where we've already spoken about kind of simplifying materials on outer packaging specifically, or kind of bottles, glass, very simple. But it just creates such a challenge for us with closures. That's where we really struggle. So for me, for our brand, I think that would make the biggest difference to see more innovation in that area.
Okay. Robin, Leo, Samuel, anything you'd love to flick a switch and change in the world to help our efforts?
Oh, I think there are lots of things that could help. I think it would. What is important, I think, also for the consumers is to make the difference between recyclable and actually recycled, because a lot of things are recyclable, they are not really recycled. So it's very important that all materials develop their recycling industry, so that consumer can actually recycle the material. And I think it's really important for the planet that recycling networks and industries develop for all materials.
Yeah, agree. Robin, Leo?
Yeah, I'll add that one last thing. I know we are short on time. One switch would be our recycle programming, our recycling program and equipment for the globe, not just for US or EU. Only 5% of plastic is recycled in the US, which is a very poor number. And it's about education. So that's the switch I wanted to turn on. State of California have sued ExxonMobil about how this false messaging that's being affecting people about what Samuel just talked about, recyclable and what's being actually recycled. So if I have that one magic snap, I would say, hey, change our recycling program, making sure everything 100% is recycled. And then that's my answer to that.
That would be magical. We're all smiling. We'd all love that change. That would be great. That would be great. Leo, are you seconding that, or have you got another wish?
Yeah, it's very similar. It's not similar, but I've always talked about this like optimal scenario, which is, and a lot of people might not like it, but basically the idea of packaging as service, so that whoever produces them needs to take them back. So that as consumer, we don't own packaging. Whoever produce them, or the brands who actually uses them, you need to be responsible to take them back. I think under that scenario, I know it's not going to be that easy, but I think a lot of things will change. And I think a lot of problem will be solved because it needs to be solved now. Anyway, it's if I have a switch again, I'll change that.
Yeah, that's next level EPR. Next level.
That's
EPR,
next level EPR.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. But I love the ambition. Well, hopefully everyone can see here today which is a group of really progressive businesses that are really rapidly embracing the principles of sustainability and circularity in packaging design and packaging manufacturing, and their thinking, their ambitions, their brand strategies, whether it's lightweighting, whether it's the use of recycled content, recyclable materials, sustainably sourced materials. These are people positioning their businesses to capture that shift in consumer demand and that new definition of luxury. They're going to be best placed to meet growing legislative requirements, and I'm sure along the way they themselves and the businesses they support are reducing input and transit costs. And I think for businesses that aren't, the only alternative to not get on this pathway is a pretty considerable cost of inaction that businesses need to respond to. So if anyone out there is needing help in terms of delivering the sort of change that is needed in your packaging, or you need help communicating those changes, like Lauren and her brand are doing so brilliantly, get in contact with us. We work with hundreds of businesses that are doing a great job of this, and for whom it's their reason for being. Thank you to Lauren, Leo, Robin, and Samuel so much for your time
Thank
today,
you.
but also your company's laudable efforts, your ambitions, and the work you're doing for the industry, and to everyone for joining us today. Take care.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.